Hi, everyone. It's so wonderful to see you all here. On behalf of the GLASE, I extend a very well welcome to you all here to participate sharing global views today. Share Global View is a series of conversations and discussions. It's also a space for us to meet, learn, and share different perspectives about our knowledge, cultures, attitudes, and what we're trying to do to make this world a better place. We usually meet up every other Wednesday, New York time, 7:30 a.m., Central Europe time, 30:30, and Hong Kong time, 19:30. And if you want to watch more clips of sharing global views, please follow us on the LinkedIn page. We'll upload more afterward. And we also go live stream on our YouTube channel and Facebook page. And here are the links. So, what's new?
Thank you, Helena. All good, same old. So thank you for all the audience come up today. So we welcome all those African friends and even American friends probably having their morning tea, and Europeans having their lunch, and the Asian country probably having a dinner tea. So today we're gonna have two speakers again, as some time that we're planning when there's those two are really can have a good combination and topic for each other. Now, the program is actually built for not just only the young professions, graduates, undergrad, but also for global leaders, students, or anyone who actually have an interest to ask a question and then come up here to learn something that actually can help the world do a better at using sharing economy practice. The program is getting better because we're starting to have more down to earth projects. And today we're gonna have Daniel and Mr. D going to talk about a very interesting project, and also Mr. D, which is the president of African Chamber, going to talk about how a chamber actually can help with this whole process, which is actually what GLASE is supposed to do. But before I do all that, we need to have a little bit briefing on what the topic is and a bit more about the two speakers. So let's welcome the host of every time and also today, our honorable president, host Maria Figueres. Welcome, President. You're in mute, President.
I'm sorry. It helps to be off mute. Thank you, Elena, and thank you, T, and thank you all for joining us on this new edition of Sharing Global Views. This is brought and organized by GLASE, the Global Alliance on the Sharing Economy. And to describe GLASE, I would have to say that GLASE is the future. What more can I say? GLASE is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization promoting the sharing economy on Earth. And in a world with increasing population and their needs and aspirations for well-being, and with the same amount of finite resources from an environmental point of view, sharing is the way forward. We believe that strongly, and we promote it in terms of business without borders, opportunities for entrepreneurs, job creation around the world. So today we have with us two very distinguished speakers. We have Daniel Ntui, who is a co-founder of Tranzak Financials, and he is going to be talking about financial inclusion. How do we make those that are already bankable more efficient in financial transactions? And how do we include those citizens of the world that are not yet in a financial system so that they can participate and be part of a sharing global economy? And then we're also going to hear from Mr. Nkwetato Tamonkia, who is the chair of the African Chamber of Commerce in China, on how chambers of commerce are beginning to mobilize and move in the direction of promoting greater business without borders, very much an objective of the sharing economy. So I want to ask all of you friends that are with us this morning to keep in mind your questions that you may have and that you would like to ask either Daniel or Nkwetato. And we will come to your questions at the end of both presentations. So to begin with, let's go to Daniel. Daniel, as I already mentioned, is the co-founder of Tranzak Financials, which is a fintech startup. And GLASE is all about promoting entrepreneurship. And in this case, Tranzak aims to promote financial inclusion and boast the digital economy in Africa with cashless payment systems. So Daniel comes with a rich experience and a very distinguished career in the financial services sector, where he has been for many, many years. He has also led various programs and projects, such as the implementation of the second generation of China National Advanced Payment System. And in this endeavor, we thought it would be wonderful to have this strong entrepreneur share everything about Tranzak. So Daniel, let me turn it over to you. The floor is yours.
Hello? Hello, everyone.
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jose Maria. Thank you, T. Thank you, Helena, for the introduction. My name is Daniel Ntui. I'm from Cameroon, and I'll be presenting to you, as Jose Maria rightly said, about fintech in Africa. With specifically, we're going to talk about Central Africa because Africa is a very large continent, so we decided to narrow down to a region that we are more versed with. So let's get started. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay. Is it okay?
Yep.
Okay, so for today's agenda, I'm going to introduce the following points. The first, I'll talk about briefly about our business, and then I'll share with you all a little bit about the macroeconomic indicators in Central Africa, our market, our target market. Then we'll talk about some of the financial inclusion challenges affecting this region. Then we'll share with you our solutions to some of these challenges. And finally, we'll conclude with some of the opportunities that you, as an individual, as an investor, as a business person, as an analyst, or as just a reader, can be part of how you can be part of this change. So let's get started. Yeah, about myself, as Jose Maria said, I spent the last 7 years of my career working at Standard Chartered Bank in China, where I oversaw the bank's digital transformation and ensured operational excellence in China, and also manage systems that process more than $1 trillion in transaction value on a daily basis. And prior to that, I worked at Dell Software Group in China, where I was responsible for architecting technology and business solutions to cater for emerging information security challenges. And as also a member of the African Chamber of Commerce since 2015, I've been overseeing the FinTech division, the FinTech committee. And so far for the past 5 years, we've been supporting FinTech programs, projects spanning over 35 countries in the African continent. So I'm delighted to share with you part of this experience, and I hope that we all can learn something from this. First, about our startup. So we are a young startup with focus on Central Africa. Like I said, Africa is a very large continent. There are over 50 countries in it. And we decided to carve out this region, which we think we are more versed with. And we think that it matches our expectation and we can solve some of the problems that is plaguing this market. Our mission is to provide innovative digital solutions through digital payments to a market that in some places, 70% does not have a bank account. So I'll give you a little overview about Central Africa so that you can have an idea of the market that we are dealing with, and then we can address these challenges. So first, Central Africa is that region in dark that you see right there. It spans over 9 countries: Angola, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, Democratic Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, and Sao Tome and Principe. The main features about this, the common aspect about these countries is that they belong to the same custom union, meaning that goods can actually flow freely across borders in this union. And some of these countries also belong to the same economic and monetary bloc. The monetary bloc is called CEMAC, which has 6 countries in it. And by having a common monetary bloc, they use the same currency and the same monetary policy. And that means there's free flow of capital between these countries. Another common factor is that the regulatory framework in this region is unified, well, on many aspects to facilitate and boost economic integration. So in summary, there are 9 countries spanning a population of 190 million, with a GDP, a cumulative nominal GDP of about almost 350 billion US dollars. And it represents about 14% of Africa with 14% of GDP, which makes it quite balanced. So let's talk about some of the challenges that we'll be discussing today and how we are tackling them. Well, I shared this photo to highlight a particular problem. As you can see, there's something common across these photos, and you see long queues of people sitting out there or standing, and they're all waiting, usually actually in front of banks. So this is a very common scene that you see across our region in Central Africa every month, or pretty much every day of the week. So this is, I chose this selection to highlight the practicality so that you can have a visual picture of what we'll be talking about. Now, these are some of the challenges. We have a significantly large population of unbanked population. We have in some areas over 68% of the population does not have a bank account. Secondly, most of the transactions are still cash-based, over 80%. As you know, cash transactions are costly, they are risky, and they're inconvenient. People have to stand in queues for long hours, like you just saw, to make payments for basic goods and services. Now, there's a problem of the risk. When you carry cash around, anything can happen. You can embezzle the money, or you can be robbed. That exposes you to risk. Then we have the problem of cost. Like you saw in the photos that I shared, some organizations like utility service providers, they have, in order to reduce their costs or to reduce the convenience factor, they actually set up mobile or temporary kiosks just so that people will not queue up for long hours. This inadvertently increases the operating costs and their bottom line. Next, we have a problem that the current payment systems are dated. They are still using technologies from the pre-internet ages, and it just cannot cut through with the current environment. Then we have regulatory hurdles. Some frameworks are still dated. They haven't been updated to meet current challenges. Next, we also have problems with credit for small and medium businesses. Farmers, those that are not banked. Imagine a farmer having to request for a loan from a bank. The bank has no payment trail, no transaction detail about the farmer. And so they have 2 choices. One is either to reject the loan because there's no information on the farmer, or they give them the loan, but with very high interest rate. As a poor farmer, that loan will be hard to come by. Then we have the problem of inefficient regional and cross-border transactions. Most of these processes are time-consuming, and even though this region was set up to have a unified or to integrate the economies of these countries, due to the current structure of inefficient processes and manual processes between the financial system, the economic aspect cannot be realized. And therefore, we came up with ways that we can tackle these challenges. So what are some of the solutions that we are proposing? Well, we can categorize our solutions into 3 groups. The first solution is that we plan to offer payment solutions for the mass market to enable them receive and make payments seamlessly. We're in 2020. This should no longer be something of a rocket science. We can do that with the current technologies, and that is what we are going to do and we are doing to transform the markets. Next, for businesses, for those that deal directly with the end users and those that other businesses like large enterprises that that do transactions with other small businesses, we plan to solve their problems of supply chain payments by integrating custom-made solutions that can tackle these supply chain headaches. They'll be able to pay for salaries, they'll be able to pay their vendors, they'll be able to pay their partners in a much easier manner. Last but not the least, our structure is based on the internet systems, such that by building an ecosystem that is internet-based, we'll be able to cater for today and tomorrow's internet dynamics. We are no longer tied to the past, but rather we are building technologies for the future. So in order to understand the market, I compiled some numbers to give you, to put the picture into, to give you more insight about the market. And this figure here shows some of the opportunities, the facts and the figure with respect to mobile payments. Now, a little bit about mobile payments. As you know, we deal with a market that has a large population of unbanked, a large segment of unbanked population. Now, over the years, for the last 10 years, some countries use an innovative strategy called mobile wallets. Basically, telecommunication operators use their network to transform, to add a new feature such that by having a payment, by having a mobile phone number, you could actually send money to another person just by using their mobile phone number. In effect, your mobile phone number becomes some sort of a pseudo bank account. And this has actually given the masses a taste of what the financial, formal financial sector looks like, and it's been growing over the past years tremendously. The following figure shows the statistics between 2018 and 2019. As you can see, in a market of 190 million people, we have over 50 million people who have access to mobile wallets. And that actually represented an annual growth rate of 15%. Actually, just to contrast, 5 years ago, the annual growth rate was 5%, but recently that has tripled. Next, we have the active account users. In the beginning, more people created it, but did not really use it. Now we see an annual growth rate of over 24%. Now, the other striking parts are on the transaction volume and value. Between 2018 and 2019, we saw a 50% growth in transaction volume, which meant that more and more people have been using this. And thanks to COVID, even though it's a pandemic and we don't like it, but this number is expected to actually double by the end of 2020 because of the social distancing challenges. So we could also see a tremendous growth in the value of the transaction, rising 33% to more than $30 billion. As I said, we have a very young population. More than 38% of the population is below the age of 30. So in the next 5 years, we expect to see a burgeoning economy in this sector. So from a business perspective, what are some of the opportunities? Whether you're a business person, an investor, an analyst, whatever the case, whatever portfolio suits you, we are presenting some of the opportunities that you can take away as part of the key takeaways of this presentation. So first, we have 68% to 70% of young population. It is the youngest population on earth. And therefore, by 2025, based on our current projections, we expect the number of mobile wallet accounts to double to about 100 million. We expect the transaction volume to scale to more than five times, 500% increase to about 150 billion, presenting tremendous opportunities. Next, we're also seeing on average smartphone and internet penetration. Smartphone penetration has been growing over recent years, 20% on average in many countries. And internet penetration has been reaching the rural areas, with many rural areas having access to fiber and high-speed internet. Just to give you some example, the mobile payments volume and value of Central African states, Central African region is actually twice the size of Middle East and North Africa if you compare in volume and value. and that's 2 times that of Latin America in terms of volume and value. So this actually shows that even in the next 5 years, we're expecting a tremendous growth in this segment. Next, on the e-commerce side, many, as I mentioned, many of the population is still young. They are born right into technology. They are already using technology. Right now, we are trying to harness modern technology, provide them access to a better way of doing things, a better way of making payments. And in the process, we'll be boosting the e-commerce and, of course, the sharing economy, alleviating people from alleviating poverty and improving the living standards in this region. Fine. Next, we also have on the regulatory side, many countries have already enacted policies to support digital economic transformation. In Cameroon, there is a digital economy regulation that is meant to spur up the economy, and many other countries. From this region has a large volume of people of the market that is engaged in agriculture and agro-business. We expect agro-financing to see a rise thanks to the burgeoning digital payments. More farmers will be having more access or better access to credit, and this will increase the economy and also feed the population, because the African population is expected to increase rapidly until for the next 15 to 20 years. By 2050, I think based on the United Nations projection, the population might increase to about 30 to 50%, something like that. Next, we about the regional and cross-border e-commerce opportunity. We're also going to realize the dream of the Central African Economic Zone. As more and more countries adopt the digital payments, we're going to see a rise in regional trade, regional commerce, cross-border commerce, and this will give rise also to enormous opportunity, which will increase the GDP, the internet economies of this country. Lastly, we have the post-COVID effect. COVID being a pandemic has been, we've seen a lot of negative aspect, but actually it's been a wake-up call for most governments and policymakers in these markets, not just in Central Africa, but across the world. Now more and more governments are driving and speeding up the acceleration into the digital economy, to embrace digital economy, so that in the resurgence or in the reappearance of a similar pandemic, the economies can be more resilient. So this COVID situation actually is turning out to be a good thing to accelerate digital, to boost the digital economy. Finally, there's a lot to learn. Today is just to share with you what we are doing and how we can provide solution to some of these challenges. We're a young team, we are still growing. And if you'd like to learn more, you can contact the GLASE team. We are delighted to be part of this ecosystem, the GLASE ecosystem, and the African Chamber of Commerce. And we'll be looking forward to sharing more with you. If you have any question at the end of this presentation, you can always post your question, and you can stay connected with us on LinkedIn. And with that, this brings me to the end of my presentation. Please keep your questions. There'll be a question and answer time. Thank you very much for listening. I'm looking forward to your questions.
Daniel, thank you so much for a very engaging presentation. You talked about the tremendous upsurge in the opportunities here in the space in which you are, and the way that the market has grown. And I'm always so fascinated by the way that Africa has been very much at the forefront of digital payments and of innovating in the financial system. And at the same time, some of the pictures that you showed us at the beginning in terms of people queuing up in line for financial services are so impressive. So there must be a tremendous opportunity here, which is what you are addressing in your presentation. One of the questions that I would have for you, Daniel, at the end, because now I want to go to Nkwetato, but one of the questions that I would have for you at the end is, what makes Tranzak have a comparative or competitive advantage over other similar payment systems that may already be in place in Africa? So while you think on that, friends, let me introduce Nkwetato Tamonkia. He is the chairperson of the African Chamber of Commerce in China. Nkwetato is a veteran in the field of education and especially linking education and leadership together. He has held several relevant positions of leadership in government, but also in non-government organizations and in the world of business. So he is experienced all around, and he has a passion for human values, which I believe is something that is so needed in the world of today. So Nkwetato is going to share with us his perspectives as the leader of the Chamber of Commerce on how chambers of commerce around the world can get actively engaged and help in promoting business without borders and in very much moving along the lines of a shared economy. Nkwetato, thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
So we'll need to have you unmute.
Okay. I think it's fine now. Okay. So thank you, Mr. President, for that very extensive introduction. And I'm honored to be part of this session, which is about sharing and sharing economy. I like to always add the word collaborative. When we say sharing economy, I always say when you share, you collaborate. So it's a very interesting topic, and I'm honored to be part of this session. I would like to say hello to all our friends from Africa. I think I saw a couple of faces, and all other people who are joining in this session. I know it's streaming live on YouTube, and that's where a majority of Africans will be on. So, and if we're going to have a recording of this posted online, I think there are a lot more people who are going to watch after the session. So without taking much time, I'll try to introduce what I have to say. And the way I prepared this topic is not actually very specific, because I'm trying to look at chambers of commerce in general, and then look at the case of AfCham. So there is a little thing I would like to start with. The thing that makes AfCham a little bit different from most of the other chambers that we know is that we are representing a continent. Most of the other chambers that we know around are representing a country. So this is a difference. And sometimes you will have people who come up to us and say, oh, I want to go to this country. And so coordinating all the countries is our biggest challenge. So I'm going to spend the first 2-3 minutes to give you a brief picture of how the chamber works, the case of AfCham. And then from there, I'm going to dive into how generally we think chambers can help in cross-border trading. So, and then after that, I'm going to conclude. I'm not going to take a long time. So I'm going to see how to share my screen. Okay, I'm trying to share my screen. Forgive me if I'm not very tech savvy yet. Daniel knows how to do these things more.
I was going to say you need to. I was going to say you need to talk to Daniel then, Nkwetato.
Yeah. Well, yes, I think I have. I can share my screen now.
There we go. We're seeing your screen.
You can see my screen, okay?
Yeah.
And then so I can go to my right. I think I got it. Can
got
you
it.
see? Yes, I think. That's it. So I'm going to look at this quick introduction of AfCham so that you can just have an overview of how the chamber works. And we are actually representing about 40 out of 54 countries. And what we do is trying to be a kind of intermediary, trying to connect persons, groups, government departments, and all of this is very, very overwhelming. And for us to do that, we have to, we use networking events, summits, cultural activities, trade missions and publications and so on. So the ultimate goal for us is to have a place where people who are interested in doing business in Africa can have that one-stop information place where you go to and you get all the information you need. That was our primary goal. And it's a two-way thing because we're looking at people in China, businesses in China that are trying to enter the African market. But there is the other way around. You have a lot of businesses, small and medium-sized enterprises in Africa who are very, very interested in getting in touch with suppliers, manufacturers, producers in China. So our role is two-way. So this is one of my favorite pictures that I keep. It's taken from our office. I think this was taken 2 years ago, something. And the reason I like this picture is because it represents what we are and what we are actually doing. You can see our little chamber right there in the middle. And then you see that ocean of flags. And it is important to show this picture to people because there are a lot of people, especially in China, who still look at Africa as a country. I've come across a lot of people like that. So when somebody shows up at the chamber and says, for example, oh, I want to set up my company in Africa, or I want to do business with Africa. The reason they say this is because the impression they have is that it's a country like China. So I can say, I want to do my business in China. So when we get to ask them questions like, so which country do you want to begin from? That's when some of them begin to think about what to do. And then when you tell them that there are actually 54 of them, then they realize that they need more information. So I usually keep this picture. It's a symbolic picture to show how many countries you have to deal with if you're actually going to do business in Africa. And so it makes our task very, very difficult. And to be able to coordinate from one country to another, and people have different businesses with different targets. You have people who are interested in Nigeria, you have people who are interested in North Africa, East Africa, and so on. So it's difficult for us sometimes to actually serve each and every person who comes to the chamber equally and fairly. But we think it's a work in progress. And we're learning from the demands that we have from people. And we think that eventually people will understand. We have done a lot, we've covered a lot in 5 years. And we are looking at a very bright future because everybody is talking about Africa. They used to say all roads lead to China in terms of business. Now it has changed. All roads lead to Africa. We say there is no business in the world that does not connect to Africa in some way. This is the thing. So, and there are slogans around like Africa is the future, and if you win Africa, you win the world, and all these slogans are telling you that it is important to put Africa on the agenda in whatever you're doing in terms of business plans. So this is a quick presentation of how the chamber actually looks like. You can see 3 major departments there: the education department, where I am very active, and then you have culture, and you have business. And on the business, you can see where Daniel is coming in. On the business, we have fintech, we have trade, we have investments. On the culture is mostly the events, cultural events that we have every year. But on the education, we have something interesting that is going on. On the education, we have AfCham, which means the African Business Studies and Orientation Program. And this is a new program that we just launched. It's a program intended, the main goal of this program is to offer people who are really interested in African business to have the opportunity to study just African business. If you look at all other business studies programs around, it's always the standard international business thing. But when it comes to Africa, we've made this curriculum very, very specific. So if you are thinking about doing business with Africa, if you look into that curriculum, you will be able to see like, yes, this is exactly what I need because it tells you the specifics. We believe that that part of educating people on how to do business with Africa is very important, and it is something you don't find anywhere else right now. You have universities that have set up departments of African studies, but usually it's history and probably culture. This is the first business program that is solely focusing on African business. And then we have AYEP, which is a youth program trying to educate African youth in the diaspora on what they can do. So this is a little bit of a presentation. We cannot spend a lot of time trying to understand everything about the chamber. And as I said, I think that the first thing every chamber should be able to provide, whether it's a continental chamber or representing a country, I think it should be an information hub. Every good chamber should be able to provide general information on business sectors as well as specific data on specific areas. And what people really want, people want advice on market entry points. Because like I said, if you're going to do business in Africa, if today you decide to set up your company in Africa, the first thing you want to know is, where do I even go in? Where do I start? Which part of Africa do I start? And then you need a chamber that can tell you what is going to happen in the very near future based on current indicators. What are the market trends? So this is the kind of thing that makes people find value in a chamber. So as an information hub, this is what AfCham has been doing mostly for the past 5 years. We advise companies, we tell them the risks that are involved, we tell them this country is more stable than the other, we tell them these are the key stakeholders that you need to talk to in this country, you need to talk to this kind of person and so on. I think that information is gold to any business person. And unfortunately, for us, that kind of information chambers give away for free. I would have loved that kind of information to be paid. So, okay, the next one is as socio-cultural ambassadors, I think chambers basically also represent a country from an independent point of view. And there's an African saying that you cannot do business with the people without understanding their culture. And I totally agree with that. For those of us who are in China, doing business in China, the first thing that we try to understand in order to successfully do business in China is to understand Chinese culture. If you do not understand Chinese culture, you cannot do business with Chinese people. And for cross-border trade, this is very, very important. In cross-border trade, it is important to understand the society and the culture that you're targeting. And so one way we have been trying to do this is to organize as many networking events as possible, cultural activities, and collaborating with other chambers. most major chambers here in China have co-organized an event with us, from the French chamber to the European chamber. All of these chambers, we have collaborated with them to at least host an event so that we can get to understand what is going on in other chambers, what other cultures are offering, and then get them to understand what we want in return. So, and as facilitators, I think chambers can do a lot, because you, as a facilitator, chambers are expected to make the initial contacts. Because if I say, for example, I would like to do business with some Japanese partners, my fear is, who do I even talk to? How do I begin to talk to Japanese people? So if there is a chamber of commerce, a Japanese chamber of commerce, that's the first place I need to go to and say, can you help me talk to some key stakeholders? And if it comes to negotiations, I want somebody to be there to hold my hand. Then when it comes to payments and financial transactions, which is what a problem that Daniel is really trying to solve with Tranzak, we want that when it comes to payments and financial transactions, the currency shouldn't be a problem. Shouldn't be a problem of which currency you're dealing with. And when it comes to Africa, you can think about how many different currencies you will be dealing with. So when I look at the fact that a project like Daniel's project, Tranzak, can handle this problem. I was talking to him a week ago. I was saying, look, I don't want to know how many currencies are out there. I just want a portal where if I'm selling a service across the border, somebody from Vietnam can pay and it gets into my wallet. Somebody from the Philippines can pay in Filipino pesos and it gets into my wallet. Somebody, wherever you are, I don't want to know which currency is in your country. I just want to have my money coming into my wallet. And he was laughing and I said, this is the real problem Tranzak has to solve for us. So that's why I put 3 stars there. Payments and financial transactions. Any project that can facilitate this would have done the biggest thing to cross-border trade. And that I think is key. Well, the other things like logistics and manpower and paperwork processing, they come along as long as financial transactions are easy. If they are made easy, simple, that the others will just come along. So facilitating shared collaborative trade among small and medium-sized enterprises in Africa. I brought this particular slide because I wanted to give you a tip of the iceberg of something that we're working on, which is exactly about the sharing economy and collaborative economy. In this little diagram, it's just a summary of a project that is going on. If you look, the little dots that you have there represents groups of small buyers and sellers. And this, we call it the informal cross-border trade. What is it? It's a group of people, a category of people that is usually neglected in whatever projects you're talking about. And the reason I put it here is to say, if we're talking about facilitating shared collaborative trade, we need to think about this category of people, because like in the picture that Daniel was showing, you could see, well, people lining up to go and make payments at the bank or make transactions at the bank. Well, I still look at those people lining up to make transactions at the bank as a higher category of people. I am looking below that. I'm looking below that. I'm looking at the people we call in Pidgin English, buy and seller. What does that mean? It means these are traders who simply cross the border on foot, go and buy things from the neighboring country, come back, probably hiring a car, carrying things on their heads and so on, and then they go to to go back to their communities and sell these things. This is like the lowest, this is like the bottom level of what we're talking about. And personally speaking, I think the sharing economy, the collaborative economy, these are the people who need it the most. These are the people who need it the most. The millionaires out there, I don't see how they really need it that much. But the mother in the village who is looking for how to buy something cheaper, these are the people who need that sharing economy. So this project is about grouping buyers, bringing buyers together and sellers together so that they can look big and therefore they can be able to buy something from a manufacturer, an exporter, or an importer. Why? Because we found out their biggest obstacle. Their biggest obstacle is they cannot buy in bulk. You see this little thing, MOQ. When I talk to these villagers, these people in the rural area, what they hate the most in the world of trade is this thing, MOQ, maximum order quantity. This is what every petty trader in the rural area would hate to see, because it is the little word that disqualifies them from any trade they want to do. So you have a trader who has managed to save, what, 100,000, and he intends to buy something from a factory and sell. This is the one word that eliminates them. Your maximum order quantity should be 10,000 pieces, which to a manufacturer in a big country like China is nothing. 10,000 pieces is insignificant. No factory is even willing to look at that. But to that person in the rural area, 10,000 pieces, oh my God, that's a life thing for him. So what this project solves is, if you could bring together through some platform, an IT platform or physically, if you could bring together small traders to put whatever small quantities they would love to buy, and they can end up producing a big quantity that will look good in the eyes of a manufacturer in the factory, you would have solved a serious problem that is really affecting underprivileged communities in the rural areas. That is the core of this problem. And the other way around, you don't have these small traders who just want to buy. You also have some who want to sell, but their quantity is so small that buyers, big buyers, look down on whatever they have. What if you could put them in a collaborative platform where if you have 2 bags of corn and I have 5 bags of corn, and we put together 100 farmers who have 10 bags of corn, we have a quantity that can attract a buyer, a big buyer. So this is something that can help develop the rural areas and can also be good business for those producers and manufacturers. This is the aspect that I think we can really push forward if we're talking about a sharing economy and a collaborative economy. The people who need that most are the people in the rural areas. So, and then as independent observers, sometimes I wish that chambers of commerce could be independent observers. The reason I say I wish is because I've looked at a lot of chambers. I've talked to a lot of presidents and chairpersons of other chambers, and a chamber could be independent if it is not financed and sponsored by the government of the country it represents. A chamber could be independent if it is not financed and sponsored by some big companies. Now, it's very hard to find a chamber that can function on its own without being somehow sponsored by a government or sponsored by some big companies. And we all know he who pays the piper calls the tune. So this is something that I wish could be, because if chambers could play the role of independent observers, it would be very, very, very useful in cross-border trade, because that will lead to everybody's rights protected. The seller, the buyer, the consumers, everybody will be protected. Unfortunately, it is something that is very, very hard to achieve, and I throw it out there for you to think about it and see if this is achievable. And as mediators, of course, if you're an independent observer, you could be a mediator in things like copyright infringements, contract breaching, taxation, and so on. So this, to me, is what I think chambers can do. And this is how I think they can contribute to global sharing economy and collaborative economy. And I think most chambers would agree with me that a chamber could do all these things, but unfortunately, chambers are not businesses. Chambers of commerce are not businesses. They are not profit-making companies. So it's very, very difficult for any chamber to come up with the budget necessary to succeed in all these things. I think with that, I come to the end of my presentation. Sorry if it was long, but I was just trying to get a little bit of insight into some things that we may have more time to discuss in the future. Thank you for your time.
So Nkwetato, thank you so much for your presentation. I thought that what you mentioned with respect to AfCham was absolutely relevant and really very much a comparative or competitive advantage of your chamber. And I also liked what you mentioned about understanding the culture, understanding the society when we want to do cross-border business, because I think it's very important in terms of not only being successful, but in terms of sharing economy, which is what these conversations are all about. So we have some questions from you, from the audience, I'm sure, that have been sending in their questions through our LinkedIn GLASE page, and we'll go to them in a minute. But first, Daniel, if I may come back to you. So what makes Tranzak so unique compared to other similar payment systems?
First of all, as I mentioned, I talked about mobile wallets that were created by telecom companies to tackle the issue of digital payments. And they have done a tremendous job giving people access to the financial system, bringing millions of people closer and closer to the financial infrastructure and alleviating poverty in their own respect. However, as I also talked about, they have inherent problems that are plaguing their fundamental structure. From the technical side, from the technology perspective, they are built specifically to tackle person-to-person payments. So if you want to send money to a person from your own account, they'll work almost flawlessly. But from business perspective, they become challenging because they do not support business-to-business payment, person-to-business payment. So this is what is needed to boost e-commerce digital, to take it to the next level. And that is the key strength of what Tranzak is trying to present to the market. So we are not actually there to replace the mobile wallets. We're actually there to complement it and to add capabilities like what you call in the industry B2B or B2C, which simply means business to business, consumer to business transaction, so that you can be able to pay for, let's say, shop online seamlessly. You, as a business owner, you can pay your salaries, you can also pay your suppliers. Your whole supply chain payments can be realized more seamlessly, as most modern payment systems can, what the kind of services that modern payment systems like Alipay, WeChat Pay offer. So that is our core strength, and that is what differentiates us from the other players, mobile wallets.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Elena T, do we have any questions coming in?
Yes, we have a question for Chair. So Chair, thank you for this presentation. So you mentioned that we want to be independent for chambers, but also to be independent, we have limited resources. And you mentioned about collaborating and sharing economy. So in your view, have you in the past have experienced that there's something you can do for your business or you entrepreneurs, just you don't have enough forces to help them, but if we have a unition of chambers, say alliance of chambers, that we can bring other chambers to come collaborating and they can be done a better job to supporting them. Do you come across any of those problems, and what would you suggest those alliance can do to support this?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. Actually, in terms of collaborating, the people have made a few attempts to bring chambers of commerce together on the kind of single platform through which they can share certain things, certain limited resources that they have. For example, a simple office. If you talk to most chambers here in China, I think their number one problem is running their office. So one of the things that people have tried to do, and right now there is another company trying to do that, is to bring chambers that want to collaborate together and put them, say, in one building, put them in maybe one floor of a building. And we think that kind of collaboration could be very helpful, because if you had the American Chamber of Commerce, the British Chamber of Commerce, the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, if you had all of them in one building, think of the wonderful resource that would be. A trip to that building would be a golden trip, because you can really have a lot of things. Walking from one chamber to another would be like visiting all the different countries. So this is one idea that has not been effectively achieved yet, but I think it's something that can be achieved. And this is probably something that GLASE could look into. That would be a great way to promote the sharing economy, the collaborative economy, by showing the example of putting all these chambers together. I am thinking I have a picture of a building that has all the chambers of commerce, and it will save all of us a lot of trouble. We could have one conference room, we could have one or two meeting rooms, and we could actually even share staff, because all chambers have similar problems. You don't have the resources to pay your receptionist. You don't have someone there to do the translation for you, because all chambers are dealing with multiple languages. You don't have someone there to pick up your calls, plan and organize your events for you, and so on. So think about all these chambers in one building. We will be able to share and collaborate making the best use of our limited resources.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sir.
That's a powerful idea. Bringing all your chambers into one floor, one building. Nkwetato, it's a very powerful idea. I think it has a tremendous amount of potential. Thank you for sharing. Elena T, do we have other questions?
Yes, we do have audience actually in the group. Scott, I think you have something you would like to ask. You want to ask in person.
Yeah, great. Well, first of all, thank you for Nkwetato and also for Daniel. You articulated so well, and it's very, very inspiring. I'm Scott Williams. I'm in Shanghai. And the question I have is, it's really an eye-opener, is that there's already a very robust economy in Central Africa. And I've had the chance to meet Daniel and Dee several times. But the question I want to ask is, with an efficient mobile payment system, what would be the positive impact on the local economies in terms of economic growth and opportunity for so many? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Scott. As I mentioned in the presentation, I listed a few. First, we having a system where when transactions are cash-based, especially right now, where over 80% of the transactions are actually cash-based, it slows down the whole payment cycle. For example, if you need to pay your suppliers, you have to go queue up in the bank for an hour, and then the bank has to process it manually. It takes a few days just to process the transaction. By digitizing this whole workflow, what used to take a few days, the settlement and all that, it takes about 3 to 5 days. If you digitize that, you drop the payment cycle to a few seconds or minutes, and that will greatly speed up the economy and the ways of doing business. Secondly, it will reduce risk and boost efficiency. One of the challenges that the local governments have is collecting taxes. People don't pay taxes because the ways are you have to go still queue up just to pay your tax. If we could digitize that process, there'll be boosting government revenue, and the whole efficiency is going to be a systemic boost to the economy, from the shortening of the payment cycle up to the government revenue, and also the reinjection of capital and boosting of the whole digitization of the economy. I think that will go a long way to accelerate growth. Remember that we have a young population, and the world is so connected thanks to the internet. People see how it is already happening out of their own region, and they would like to copy what they see happening over the internet. So it's no longer going to be a new process for them, because some of them have already had a taste of what digital payment is all about through mobile wallet system operated by telecom operators. It's just going to take them a step further and providing a better platform to accelerate the economy. So these are some of the, I think fundamentally it's just accelerating the payment process and also generating new revenue streams, cutting down the settlement period for enterprises, and overall reducing the risk and creating new opportunities for businesses. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, very exciting. Thank you. Very powerful.
Thank you.
Feedback to you, Elena.
Yo,
Yep,
I think we also have Jamie and Susan ask questions. So maybe 2 more questions.
Yeah, I think Jaime's on. Thanks, Jaime.
So Susan, can you please ask your questions in person?
Good evening to everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, my question is directed to Ntui. We know that, from my understanding, I know that internet penetration in Central Africa as a whole, it's relatively very low. And we also have issues with electricity, which also affects the internet connectivity. So how does Tranzak plan to go around this particular issue in order to meet up its objective of making e-payments easy? And thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Susan, for that question. Actually, I hear this a lot. So the first thing is, on the internet penetration side, the irony is that Cameroon exports internet to, we have a new payment internet highway connecting Brazil. The infrastructure is actually underutilized. It's not that we don't have it, it's not being used to its full capacity, because in the past 10 years, there's been a lot of investment being carried out on the internet backbone in Cameroon specifically. And so we just need to be able to leverage that. And actually, there on the side note, which we can discuss out, there's some projects to accelerate integration into rural areas. Now, to talk about the electricity issues, yes, we're always going to be having these issues. But if you also check from the growth that we've experienced for the past couple of years, now, despite all these shortcomings, we've been seeing a tremendous growth in the mobile payments, meaning that, yeah, we do suffer electricity outage from time to time, but people, especially the past year, we've seen about a 50% growth in the number of transactions in a 1 year period, and we're expecting that number to go up. So we're going to have very innovative solutions that we have in the market, some of which are proprietary, if I can say the least, which would tackle these problems specifically, making more and more rural people from the rural areas have access to internet when it's available, and also when they have electricity. If you're also aware, there's been a growing drive to provide sustainable and green energy to communities that do not have access to the national grid. So for our 5-year forecast, these are actually some of the macroeconomic policies and government policies that issues that will be tackled if you actually go into some of the government's strategies as for the next 5 years. So if we can just cater for what we have right now, we're still going to see growth. And now more and more, thanks to COVID, more and more governments have understood the value of actually creating sustainable energy for their communities. And so we expect that the energy consumption to be going up and more investment to be pumped into the area of energy, telecom, and also to drive up these digital payments. So it's not a problem that will be solved overnight, but if we can just meet up with the current demand, I think there's still going to be a tremendous growth in alleviating poverty and also solving some of the challenges that we target. Did I answer your question? Did I miss out anything?
No, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Daniel. So we're running over time, friends, but I see on the screen one question from Mr. Jaime Saavedra. Would you like to pose your question?
Hello, good evening. This is Jaime Saavedra in Portland, Oregon. I've been traveling to Africa the last 5 years working in healthcare, and I am very impressed tonight with the Tranzak platform to enable the sharing economy. My question is, Daniel, how do we improve the internet connectivity across Africa so we can enable faster growth of the sharing economy?
Okay.
Great question. Thank you, Jaime.
Thank you very much for the question. So first, many governments have understood the value of the role internet plays in driving up the economy, and many of them have already started investing or have been investing heavily into the internet backbone to support their internet infrastructure. And just to give you some numbers, we've been having a smartphone penetration rate averaging about 20% in these markets, which means more and more people are getting connected every year to the internet. As I also mentioned that some of these countries have the necessary infrastructure. However, the last mile connectivity has still not reached the users. So thanks, as I mentioned again, thanks to the COVID situation, it has pushed governments to understand the value of digitalization of the economy, and probably this is going to accelerate the move to actually connect the users from the last mile to the user, to actually pull the cables or the connectivity from where they are to the users that need to access this internet. So it's not necessarily about the lack of internet, but about the last mile coverage, which I think many countries are currently tackling. I think for the next 5 years, we're going to see tremendous growth. And I just highlighted Cameroon, which actually has an internet backbone connecting to Brazil. To actually, with that, Cameroon will actually be able to sell some internet connectivity to other countries that might require it. So in summary, we're going to see a growth in that area. And also, we're going to see more expansion, more and more of these service providers will be providing last mile connectivity to their customers, which for the next 5 years will actually drive up exponentially the internet access rate in these markets. So we've seen that over the years. And if you can check the latest growth in internet, you see quite a spike in recent years.
Daniel, thank you so much. Very kind. Friends, we're running a bit over time. We're so sorry about that. If you have additional questions that you would like to pose, or if you would like to contact either Daniel or Nkwetato, please feel free to contact GLASE on our LinkedIn website, and we will put you in direct contact with them. So with that, I would like to thank you, Daniel, for a most engaging presentation on what you're doing with Tranzak. It sounds fantastic. And Nkwetato, thank you for bringing us up to date on things that not only the chambers are already doing, but things that they could be doing into the future that would facilitate leveraging chambers of commerce, either national or continental, as in your case, to promote GLASE, the sharing economy, and doing business across borders. With that, I would like to invite you all to participate with us next Wednesday, the 4th of November, at the same time, for a presentation by Michael Lutz. Michael is the founder of an organization called Trial House. And Trial House has, for the last years, gone around more than 15 United Nations organizations to gather all the facts, the research, the data, and the opportunities that those more than 15 UN organizations have been able to assemble over the years to be able to solve the problem of lack of housing in the world. It will be a fascinating conversation, and we invite you all to participate back with us on Sharing Global Views next Wednesday, the 4th, at the same time. With that, T and Elena, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. So back again, if you we see there's so many questions for Daniel and or Chair. So this YouTube video will be reloaded up onto our GLASE YouTube channel. So please go ahead to look into this whole video. And where Daniel presented at the end of his presentation have this barcode that you can go and find Daniel. And also it will be very easy to find African Chamber from online. So please, and also feel free to contact GLASE or any of us to be able to, get connection with them, or any of the program that you're very interested to ask further questions. So thank you so much, Helena.
So it's gonna be the last session. Two gentlemen, do you have some sentence or something for our audience to take away? Miss Daniel.
Okay. Well, I think if I can do a short analogy, what we are experiencing in some parts of Africa is analogous to what China went through. I've lived in China for a while. It's analogous to what China lived through some 10 to 15 years with the digital economy. I think we are all welcome to be part of this, because it's going to be a fun, exciting journey with lots of interesting things to come by. So stay tuned, and looking forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. D?
Well, I look forward to many more sessions like this. And my wish is that these things don't end at the level of meetings, that these things transform into concrete action. That would be my wish. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us today, for being patient with us, and see you next time. Have a good day and have a good evening. Bye.
Bye.